Yep, still recording.
You're still recording? All right,
Still
hit
recording.
record. Hit it a second time. See what happens.
I'm going to stop recording. And then it'll just be you talking to yourself for an hour and a half.
That would be so funny.
That's actually what this whole podcast has been this entire time. It's
Just
you
me talking to
yourself.
myself for an hour and a half with you chiming in here and there. Are you a figment of my imagination, Odie?
Probably.
Odie, tell me the thing that you told me about tubing.
You mean like 5 minutes ago?
Yep.
Oh, we are going to Ace Hardware to buy $20 river rafting tubes.
Odie, why are you not floating in the river in the donut tube?
Well, that would be because, I'm not kidding, those 4 tubes that we got, they were in the back of my Jeep. It was 109 degrees the other day.
They melted.
They melted.
Oh, wow.
They melted.
You melted my donut tube?
The donuts, like, they all became like this giant pile of, like, I'm glad that I had them on something, otherwise they would have gotten all over my back of my Jeep, but, like, I had to throw them all 4 away.
Damn.
Yeah, they
Dude,
were.
I can't believe you melted my donut tube. I have so many fond memories now of tubing down this river with other people in river grade tubes while I'm just sitting in a pool grade donut.
That was $7 at Walmart.
Dude, that was okay. We ended the podcast last week saying we were going to go tubing. Here's the tubing update.
Oh, yeah.
We went to Walmart and got tubes. We got donuts and we got magical unicorn tubes. I almost got cheated out of my donut tube because someone grabbed a magical unicorn tube. I didn't know there were rules on this. I was like, no. You guys are going to give me the donut tube. I almost threw a temper tantrum over the donut tube. Okay. And then we go down. And I could hear it in everybody's voice. Like Goose was saying, like, oh, these aren't the types of tubes that we're going to need. Look at everybody else. They've got river tubes. I could even hear Adriana's hemming and hawing a little bit. And then when we all touched the water, I could hear it in everybody's voice that tubing probably wasn't happening that day. But, Odie, what happened?
We all went home.
No, we did not, Odie.
We went and got Greek food.
I got in the river and said these exact words. Someone's got to push off.
You never did that.
And I went down in a donut tube by myself, getting out of the river multiple times, looking for you guys like, oh, they'll catch up. They'll catch up. And those people are like, where are your friends? I'm like, I don't know.
They're real, I promise.
They're real, yeah. I know I'm just some random white dude in a donut tube who got out of this river, but they're coming, I swear. So then I keep going. Luckily, I got out at like a spot that you're not supposed to get out at one point because I was like, I really haven't seen these guys in a while. And I get out and Goose and Adriana are walking right by where I'm getting out. This is not where you're supposed to get out. There's not an actual exit there. And I'm like, oh, hey, what's up? They're like, oh, yeah, we're not tubing.
Well, so what happened, 2 of the tubes we bought, even though we thought they were like full-size tubes, they were for children. And so when I sat down in the tube, I'm not joking, the whole thing went underwater.
You're talking about the magical Afro unicorn tubes.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, okay. You still could have gotten in a donut tube and come down the river with me, Odie.
I could have, but then I would have just been by myself.
I was explaining this funny story to Bryce Snyder, and he brought up a good point. He said, Marine, why did you leave a man behind? That was his question for you.
Oh, for me?
Why did you leave a man behind?
That's hilarious.
Marine?
You should tell him that you pushed off before the other 3 people were ready and you abandoned your friends.
I think you just told him right now.
Because I stayed with the pack. I stayed with the 2. I'm not Jesus. I don't leave the herd to go for the 1.
So what you're saying is I left 3 behind.
Yes. So technically, Bryce Snyder, if you're listening, blame Kevin. I did the smart thing. I stayed with the people who were unprepared. All right?
So it's probably a good thing I wasn't in the military.
Yes. You just disappeared. We were like, okay, hold on, let's figure this out. And you were like, no, see ya. And you just
bye, guys. Look, man, here's the thing. We all touched that water. It was cold. Right, I got out. My hands and feet were real cold, like they were real chilly. But you can hear it in people's voices, like especially if you do like extreme things, right? Like if you're about to go like, I don't know, like some crazy kind of like mountain boarding or something like that. You will have people that are excited to show up, and then when they realize the reality of the scenario that you have created, however professional or not, they will like back out, right? And not only that, like I could hear it in yours and Adriana's and Goose's voice. If you guys had even gotten in that river and your floats had worked, you would have not had a fun time. because it was
no,
cold.
I would have. The cold didn't bother me. Adriana was the one. If you're listening, Adriana, I'm about to throw you under the bus real hard.
Whoa.
She was the one that
Under
was like,
the
this is too
tube
cold.
bus?
Yeah, and she was like, this is too cold. And she was the one. My feet were numb, but if I had the right tube, I would have gone.
Okay, here's the other thing, and this is really funny. I was actually surprised that she had agreed to go tubing because she won't get in like a 73-degree pool. Like that, and like, but like I could kind of hear everybody like when you hear everybody like hemming and hawing. I was like, I gotta go. If I don't go, I'm gonna get grouped in, and I'm not gonna be able to go.
Well, if you hadn't gone, we were gonna actually just go rent, and then we were all gonna go together. But
you still could have done that.
We wouldn't have had time because we had to go pick you up.
No, you could have gone and rented and then come back up. I'm a functional adult. I flipped over in that tube and got back up. I was fine.
You had no cell phone and you were in uncharted waters.
It was
We
great.
Didn't trust you. We didn't trust you.
You didn't trust the guy.
We didn't trust you.
Tubing in a donut tube confidently, singing
We didn't
Black
trust
Water
you.
by the
You were
Doobie
too
Brothers
confident.
to himself.
That's what it was. You were too confident. You were gonna end up at the Coors Light Brewery or whatever.
I was reading signs.
It said exit.
Let's start the podcast. Hey, new and improved podcast music going right here, and it's
New
correct.
improved.
Yeah, and it's correct. It's the right music.
Evan, that sounds a lot like ABBA.
That's not. No, I'm not gonna play. We're gonna get demonetized if I played ABBA.
Oh.
No,
No,
Okay.
I'm saying it sounds like ABBA.
it's not ABBA.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
It sounds like ABBA.
All right, I'm starting it over right here.
Oh, I hear it now. Celine
Okay.
Dion.
Are you ready to clap?
Did you just mute me?
Are you ready to clap?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Are you ready to clap?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the Unpop Podcast. It's a pop culture potpourri of hot topics and polysyllabics coming straight at you.
What the fuck is a polysyllabic?
It's a multi-syllable word. It's one of the few words in the English language that actually defines itself.
What's
Come
it
on,
mean?
Odie. Get with it, baby. I'm your Capitan who understands all the words all the time. Todo siempre. That's funny.
Yeah, yes, you
Kevin
just
Miner, he, him. With me as always is.
I almost called myself Kevin. It is Odie Matthews, to be exact. The chef, they, them, cooking up content because I am a culinary demonstrable corsair.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Absolutely phenomenal.
That word. So speaking of vocabulary, real quick, I want to say
Polysyllabics, yes.
I have been acquiring new words for my vocabulary.
Oh, wow. You've been
And-
reading. You've been reading.
Yes,
That
I
was a
have
really
been
weird
reading
way to
this
say
thing.
you've been reading.
I've been reading this really boring book. I don't know what the plot is. It's called Dictionary,
Dictionary?
and it's very weird. Like, it does not make any sense. But
Yeah.
I used that word actually in an argument at work.
Okay.
And
Polysyllabics?
no, demonstrable.
Oh, demonstrable.
I'm
Like,
talking about demonstrable. The word.
yeah,
I just
like,
used.
okay. Okay.
I love that word.
Yeah.
I used it at work around a couple people, and I could tell that that is not a word that is in most people's regular vocabulary.
Well, a lot of people don't get above like a certain grade level of reading. So yeah, I mean, you're going to run into that, man. Here's, I've talked about this a few times with other people. I don't think we've talked about this on the podcast yet. If you're striving for intelligence, I mean, people already make fun of you in like grade school for striving for intelligence. When you get out, it only gets worse. People are like, why are you still learning? We're past that age. We don't remember, we all got a diploma and threw a hat in the air. Like, and even
Not me.
people I know who have graduated college with like bachelor's and master's degrees, sometimes like they will just straight up they'll hate on somebody for like having $10 words, and it's like, dude, we're all just doing our best here. Why not just ask what the word is? There could be a much better interaction if you just ask what the word is instead of trying to like establish some sort of dickhead supremacy, which I've realized that's what it is. It's just insecurity. It's insecurity when people are like, oh, there you go with the big words. It's like, dude, you have you're paying probably at least $50 a month for the thing in your hand, and you can just ask. You can ask the thing now. You don't even have to type it in anymore. You could just try to repeat the word I said.
Or you just call Adriana if you're you and go, "Hey, Adriana, what does the word demonstrable mean?" And she'll say, "What the fuck?"
Hold on.
What are you, you're gonna ask her?
Let's do it right now. Let's see if it works.
She can't hear me this time, but I love it.
Oh wait, that's FaceTime. Hold on, not FaceTime. Let's see. All right, let's see. Let's see if she picks up. Here we go. Trying to get this word. We're trying to get this word in.
Isn't it like 6 a.m. for her?
Yep.
No, it's 7. No. Never mind.
Hey, Adriana, what does the word demonstrable mean?
I quit.
You can't quit.
What does she quit?
What do you quit?
I quit being Surrey.
I don't think that's allowed.
It's a Sunday, Kevin.
Wait, but what does the word demonstrable mean?
You're asking me what a big word means?
Yes.
Okay, I know medical terms and kid terms, not those words.
All right, that's fine. Have you had your coffee yet?
No.
All right, go get some coffee.
No.
Okay then.
It's 7 a.m. for her.
All right, we got to keep doing the podcast. All right.
Oh, shit, you're doing podcast? Oh, fuck.
Love you, bye.
Well,
that was great. That was great.
what are we talking about today, Kevin?
I have no idea anymore. I give up.
We're talking about period pieces because you watched Shogun, you watched 1917. I love period pieces. Gladiators 2 trailer came out with Denzel Washington being Denzel Washington with the Kanye West Jay-Z rap song.
Yep.
That's about all I got on that one.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about period pieces a little bit. We're going to talk about
Great.
some period piece movies.
We're not talking about pieces, period. We're talking about period pieces, baby.
And then I have a great... it is going to be my jam, but at the end of period pieces, I want to talk about the movie that I saw last night in theaters because it is easily one of the best movies I've seen this year. It is one of the best suspenseful murder, thriller, horror, mystery movies I've seen as of recent. I am very excited to talk about it. It is the movie Longlegs.
Okay.
Talk about it after period pieces.
Okay. Cool. You have some really great momentum. I want you to continue with that.
I got momentum.
You got some momentum. Keep going. Keep going.
I want to talk about the Gladiator 2 trailer first.
Hit me.
So I want to bring up the cast list and stuff. Now, look, I'll be the first to admit when it comes to Ridley Scott, he is kind of, and this is not a good comparison in terms of quality, so don't come at me. He's kind of like
a douche.
I was gonna.
Why would you say that about Ridley Scott, Odie?
I was gonna say he's kind of like Michael Bay, and now what I mean by that is there are some Michael Bay movies that, for what they are enjoyable. Again, I'm not saying that Michael Bay makes cinematic masterpieces like Gladiator, like Ridley Scott has done.
Yeah,
but Ridley Scott has also, and I kind of wanted to start with this because I don't think people. I think he's kind of like Steven Spielberg, where not all of his movies are as good as people think, right?
Yeah.
So
wait, you mean Steven Spielberg's not as good as people think?
Crazy. So obviously, I'm gonna rattle through these pretty quick, but obviously,
hit me.
Alien's a huge hit, great movie.
Yeah.
First Blade Runner, depending on which cut you watch, great movie. Right?
Pretty solid.
Then you get into you've got Thelma and Louise. I'm not personally a big fan of that one.
I like Thelma and Louise.
G.I. Jane,
I do like that.
I wasn't a huge fan of.
G.I. Jane?
I wasn't a huge fan of it.
That was actually pretty good. I mean, G.I. Jane, a.k.a. Army sexism in the 90s. Am I right?
Yeah, right.
All right. Keep going.
Gladiator, obviously. Yeah. I think it's fine. I think it hasn't. I don't think it's as good as people think. I'm just kidding. Gladiator's a great fucking movie.
Wow, you came out with a hot take,
kidding.
right?
I'm kidding. I love Gladiator.
Okay. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, man.
That's why I have opinions on Gladiator 2, because I am a big fan of Gladiator 1.
And it didn't need a sequel.
It did not. Then you
No,
had,
it did not.
The Hannibal movie from 2001, which
solid.
Sure.
What? All right, keep going.
It's not the best follow-up.
What? Disagree.
Okay,
Disagree. I think it's actually better than the original. I think it's actually the good film out of the three. I think the other two are okay.
Okay, that's fair. Black Hawk Down. I love that movie.
that's
personally.
that's a solid one.
Then
AKA
you have,
America can be blindly racist because of war zones. Okay, got it. Yep. Keep going.
Kingdom of Heaven.
Yeah.
American
no,
Gangster.
wait, hold on. No. Hold on.
That's a good movie.
Hold on. Yes, hold on. You can't just say Kingdom of Heaven and list it. No. Kingdom of Heaven is Ridley Scott's best movie.
I love that. I didn't say
That movie is phenomenal.
No, I'm just naming his movies. I'm not saying whether
I
they're
know,
good or
but
bad.
But I know you said you wanted to go through them quick, but you said Kingdom of Heaven, buddy. Listen, Kingdom of Heaven is a masterpiece that not enough people saw. I would actually go down with saying, let's find a hill. Let me get a sword from Kingdom of Heaven in my hand. Let me die on this.
Okay.
I think it's probably one of the most underrated films ever. Like, most underrated. And I don't mean most underrated as in, like, within the theatrical realm, most underappreciated. I mean, like, people just don't know this film. It doesn't get talked about enough. It doesn't get brought up about enough. It's about the fucking Crusades. And not only that, it paints such a beautiful picture of, like, the wrongs on both sides. And just the main character ends up learning this beautiful lesson, and we not only that, like, for the few times that it's ever properly happened in this way, we get a story that opens and then closes with almost like the mirror opening and closing, and that's the entire character arc. We get it like perfectly, succinctly, and it ends simply. Like, in the way that it ends, you're just like, it's such a huge relief of tension that you don't even normally get from films. There's not like a crazy like moment at the end. It's like, oh, this is actually really nice after everything that's happened. It's really cool, man. I like that movie does not get enough credit. Keep going.
Look, I'm not gonna disagree with any of those points. One of the most underrated movies ever. I would have to rewatch Kingdom of Heaven. I need to. I actually
You should.
put it on my list.
It's a cinematic masterpiece.
Been a while.
You want to talk? If you mentioned Kingdom
That's
of
a
Heaven.
period piece.
Like, before I was going to try to make a joke that Michael Bay might have a cinematic masterpiece, and then I remembered he's never made anything like Kingdom of Heaven, which is like, okay.
Michael Bay's closest cinematic masterpiece, in my opinion,
Bad Boys 3.
He didn't direct that one.
Oh.
I was gonna say The Rock. Like, I mean,
Okay, yeah.
That's for what. Anyways,
Welcome to The Rock. All right, keep
American
going.
Gangster, obviously good movie.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
Body of
AKA,
Lies-
you're only a gangster till you get caught, and then you flip on all your friends. Got it.
Yeah, that's the simulator. Body of Lies. Look, again, I get it. It's
fine.
DiCaprio. It's Russell Crowe. It's Mark Strong. But not my favorite. This is where I think he starts to kind of dip a little bit, because you have Body of Lies.
Oh wait, Body of Lies was good though.
Again, this is personal opinion.
It was
but
good.
Body of Lies. Then you had the Robin Hood movie from 2010 that was just
that was bad.
abysmal. Then
Yeah,
he
it was
did
bad.
Prometheus.
That was good. We're
Then-
back.
I hated Prometheus.
Prometheus was very good.
I
Prometheus
fucking hate
was
that movie.
not an alien movie, but was kind of an alien movie in a very good way. Like, I actually really enjoyed that, and I like
glad
the
you
change
did.
of pace that it has from the rest of that entire universe. Like, the change of pace that movie has is so good. Keep going.
I think we're gonna see that with Alien Romulus. Have you seen?
I
the
think so
trailers?
too.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude,
Yeah, it looks good. Yeah.
But then after Prometheus, he did the movie The Counselor, which I don't think anybody saw.
I love The Counselor.
Dude, you're in the minority on that one.
Wow, that was a
then-
good movie.
He did a TV movie called The Vatican that not a lot of people know about.
I remember
then-
this, but I did not see it.
Then
Keep
he
going.
did Exodus: Gods and Kings. Bad movie.
Is that the one about Moses?
That's the yeah. It's
Right?
Christian Bale and Joel.
Yeah.
Edgerton.
Okay. I have not
The
seen that one.
Plagues. Then he did a fantastic movie that I don't think anyone will disagree with, The Martian, with Matt Damon.
Dude, wait.
What?
What the fuck? God damn it. My thing stopped recording.
What?
What the fuck? Hold on.
Hi, Future Kevin here. It actually didn't stop recording. Past Kev had just zoomed too far out on the GarageBand app and assumed that something had gone wrong, so he tried to fix a problem that didn't actually exist for about 30 seconds. Anyway, back to the podcast.
All right.
Okay, I'm back. All right.
Where was
Sorry.
I?
Okay, keep going.
Martian.
I think I got everything. I'm just going to have to piece this together. It's going to be kind of weird for a second. All right, keep going.
No worries. The Martian. with Matt Damon. Fantastic movie. I love
All
that
right.
movie.
Yeah.
I recently rewatched that movie. Then he did Alien Covenant, which I personally didn't think was very good. Then he did that movie All the Money in the World, where they had to replace Kevin Spacey at the last minute.
Oh yeah. Oh, and that would have been. I mean, Kevin Spacey ruined that one. Okay, keep going.
Yeah. And then The Last Duel, which
Yes.
like nobody saw.
I did, and I like
saw
it.
I thought it was fine.
It was
I definitely
very
didn't think
good.
It was bad.
It did such a good job of showing like here's like a wannabe white knight's perspective. Okay, here's a douchebag's perspective. Okay, here's a lady who's caught between the two douches.
Yeah.
Here's her perspective. I was like that was a very good framing. I liked everything that was shown there because you get the guy's version. Like it's not even a movie about a duel. It's a movie about the narratives that people construct to protect their own identities. Keep going.
I'm glad there's something you mentioned in that I do want to talk about. Across all of his movies. But then, just to wrap this up, he did House of Gucci and then that Napoleon movie.
Oh, House of
right?
Gucci was
So,
phenomenal too.
Here's my opinion on Ridley Scott's filmography.
And you know I love Napoleon.
I know you do.
Keep going.
Which is weird.
Vive la France!
I personally think when it comes to Ridley Scott, the more he did, like his more recent movies are lesser quality than his movies like pre, The Martian almost. Like I feel like the 2010 to 20 to now stretch that he's been on just hasn't done it for me personally.
Okay.
But what I do appreciate about Ridley Scott going into Gladiator 2 is, and you mentioned it, the perspectives that he offers us. Like,
Yes.
when you look at the first Alien movie, I mean, that movie is a masterpiece because you don't even know who the main character is until you realize that everybody except for
Ripley.
Oh my God, Ripley! Jesus, I almost called her because I was like, I
I-
almost called her Ridley, and I was like, it's not Ridley.
I was like, you've almost got this side.
Riley?
Yeah.
I was like, it's like Ridley Scott's name.
Yeah.
Is like the way he does perspectives is just really good. I feel like it's done really well in Blade Runner as well. So moving into Gladiator 2, I want to ask you first.
Yeah.
What did you think of the trailer on the whole?
Okay. I think it looks good, like appearances wise.
Visually, it looks great.
Here's my first thought was, oh, this filter's back. We're gonna have to deal with this being everyone's wallpaper background for the next 5 years. Remember, because it was like Gladiator, and then there was a bunch of films that had like that semi-old, like almost like pseudo sepia tone filter, and then fucking 300 hit, and they were like sepia tone times 100. Like,
Oh my God.
So when I first saw it, I'm like, oh, this filter's back. And then as it kept going, I was like actually paying attention to it. I think, okay, the actors look phenomenal. I think everyone's going to deliver a good performance. I think it's going to win awards for something. I hope, honestly, out of this, like the best outcome for me is if I leave the theater going, okay, it was a good story. I don't think it's going to be as good as the first, but like I might be wrong. You never know. I might go in and be like, holy crap. Wow, I'm so glad they made Gladiator 2. It's way better. But like if I leave the theater going, wow, the cinematography in this was phenomenal, right? If the storytelling in it was good and the acting was great. Like if I leave saying those three things, congrats. That's going to be banger, Like that's the ultimate way that I could leave this film. And that's after watching the preview.
I agree with that.
I think Oscar Isaac's phenomenal. I love seeing him in a role like this.
Too bad it's Pedro Pascal.
No, sorry, not Oscar Isaac.
Fuck. I was like, that's cool. You love him,
Pedro
but he's not in
Pascal.
this.
Sorry. Fuck.
I also love Will Ferrell.
As I was saying it, my brain's like, hold up, stop. Right,
No.
Keep going.
I think from a plot standpoint,
Yeah.
I'm not interested. Like, the thing is,
Oh yeah.
I don't care about Russell Crowe's almost adopted son from the first movie. Yeah, like I don't care about his love interest's son who witnessed him die in the first one.
Yeah.
Like, for those of you that don't know, there has been rumblings of a Gladiator sequel since Gladiator came out. Now,
Yes.
Ridley Scott's original idea for this was, and I don't have all the information in front of me, but I remember his original pitch was Maximus dying and then fighting through hell for something. He was like
Yes.
going to be in hell fighting like all the gladiators that had died in the past and like having to prove himself in hell, and like he was like picked by Satan to be like the gladiator champion or something like that. Again, I can't remember.
But
all the
that's too
specific
much like
details.
Korn the Blood God in Warhammer, so they can't do it now.
Yeah, exactly. It's too much like the Blood God Korn in Warhammer. So
Yeah, so they can't do that now.
Exactly. I feel like we have reached a very pivotal point when it comes to legacy sequels like this because like Top Gun 2 was great. Like for what it is, like I'm not even a big Top Gun fan, but like I really enjoyed that movie because it felt like a really tasteful follow-up
Yes.
to the original. And
Yes.
I feel like we're starting to enter this period of legacy sequels that are being made just to be made. Did you know they're coming out with a Freaky Friday sequel from like Lindsay Lohan's Freaky Friday?
No.
And like
I mean, I get it. I get it.
I get it, but
Yeah. Okay. There's a couple functions here. One, you do have to retell stories for the next generation, right? Congrats. We're getting old, right? Like these stories are going to be retold and they're not going to be our versions anymore. This is even when humans just had an oral history. This is how it works. Worked back in the day. This has always happened since we've been telling stories. This has happened. They get repackaged and then sent to the next generation. The next generation goes, oh, cool. And some of them will really like these movies. And they'll go, wow, I want to get into movies. And I think that's a great thing, right? So like some people, when was the last time you even thought about Freaky Friday, right? Like,
never.
Yeah, exactly. So like
Not
some
once.
people loved that film and loved that experience. So I get that, like, okay, cool, we're getting another one. At least this is like I feel like these are far enough away. Like my only time that I have an issue is like when it's like 4 years, like 3 or 4 years later and they're like, hey, we're restarting. Like, it's like a reboot. We're rebooting this entire franchise. It's like you just started it 4 years ago. Like
That's like the
you didn't even
Spider-Man
have enough
movies.
time to film 2 more movies. Like, what are you doing? But yeah, so like this and Freaky Friday, I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, I haven't thought about them in a while. This is fine. The sequels in that realm, I think it's okay. If it's not for you, like same philosophy that we always have. Like we don't have to see it. Like if I didn't think it was going to be even okay, I just wouldn't see it.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
And like the thing with Gladiator 2 that I noticed is it's going in that direction of like the Colosseum has water and boats and it's like this overly exaggerated period piece.
How do we improve the Colosseum?
Okay, like
It's even more dangerous with the water now.
Do you feel like the first Gladiator was relatively grounded in like Colosseum fighting?
No.
Really?
But yeah, no, but okay.
I think
Yeah,
it's-
they definitely. I mean, but you can't make it grounded. Like a movie like that's gonna be a blockbuster. There has to be. It's historical fiction, right? There has to be a level of historical fiction because if we don't tell the elevated version of the story, it's going to be boring as fuck. You know what happens most of the time when people fight? I was at the fights last night. When dudes fight, especially when it's one dude against one dude, guess what happens most of the time? They go to the fucking ground and then everybody's standing up and looking in the cage. This is literally last night. Everyone's looking in the cage and everyone's looking at the screen on TV, but they didn't have those back then. So we're looking and we're like, I can't even tell what's going on. What's he going for? Does he have a buggy choke? I can't tell. Is he going for that? Oh, does he have an arm bar? Like we're all just wondering what's happening while these two dudes roll around and try to beat each other up, right? So like you can't tell that version of Gladiator. Like it can't be Joaquin Phoenix and Russell Crowe just rolling on the ground. Like,
No, but
no,
I
you
do-
got to have like the accentuated gestures and the big sword swings and lions that come up out of trap doors. Like
Yeah, no. Well,
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that I'm not saying it's grounded in the sense that it's like real gladiator fighting. I just feel like it fits. It feels like it fits that world. Whereas this is 20 years later, and now the Colosseums have rivers and lakes, and there's tigers and there's boats. It's like we went from that to this in 20 years.
Yes.
It just I don't know. Like Gladiator is a very interesting movie for me, and Gladiator 2 just looks. I don't know. It doesn't look good to me. Like it looks like a cash grab.
Well, going back to what I originally said, this film's unnecessary. So if it's good, cool, great. Then I've enjoyed that part at least. But like They told the whole story in the first one.
Exactly.
It got wrapped up. Ridley Scott does a good job of this with the movies that only have one. Like, could you imagine Kingdom of Heaven 2? No.
Yeah.
No.
The Martian too. He's
can't-
back on Mars.
There were more Crusades. You could do that very realistically. But no, like, you did such a good job telling the story. We don't need a new update, you know? Like, and same thing for Freaky Friday. Like, once again, these are being told, like, these sequels are going to make people who are younger that enjoy watching them go back and watch the originals, hopefully, right? And that, I think that's cool too. Like, that's a nice function. So I guess, like, you know, all in all, when it comes to the Gladiator movies, like, especially this new one, I think it's far enough away from the original that, like, the new people seeing it, this is going to be their first introduction to that storytelling, that piece of historical fiction. And it's also, like, it's also different enough and has a different enough cast that as long as, like, the story is different and it's not like a reshelled version of the Vengeance story that we got in the first one, right? As long as it's not just, well,
I'm calling it.
as long as it's not beat for beat, you know, like, if it's a different form of a Vengeance story than what we're doing, we're just getting the updated version of Gladiator with new technology and hopefully not too much CGI. Like,
I have a feeling
yeah,
this movie is going to bomb. Because here's the thing. I see what you're saying, but I find it hard to imagine that anybody that, if you've seen the first Gladiator, you either don't want this or you're excited. I think that's an even split. If you've never seen Gladiator, I don't think you're going to go out and see this if you haven't seen the first one.
I think enough
dads
are going to drag their kids to this movie.
I don't know. It's R,
that
though.
seats will be filled.
It's
They'll be
R,
like,
I think.
You don't understand. Russell Crowe. And then they kept playing the song by Disturbed anytime it won an award. Like, remember that? That was like the song. Down with the Sickness was like the Gladiator song.
I do remember that.
Thank you.
I think it's hard, though.
It came
So
out, it came out around the same time. So, like, now they're, like, trying to, you can see they're trying to, like, they're like, oh, what if we could capture lightning in a bottle twice? I know that's not how the phrase works, but let's try it.
Yeah, I just also feel like, you know, that you mentioned, like, the thumbs down thing. Like, in the trailer, the new emperors do the thumbs down thing. And I'm like, that just, again, it feels like fan service. I mean, I get it. That's definitely probably what they really did or whatever. But, like, I don't know. I feel like.
Well, it was actually in the Gladiator movies, and you'll hear people explaining, like, you're too smart, bro, will be the one in the theater sitting next to you. They'll be like, it was actually the reverse in Roman times. It's when it was thumbs up, that's when they killed them, because it was for the crowd. Like, get ready for that bro to come back out and be like, let me explain to you what really happened in history, because I was there. No, you weren't. No, you weren't.
No,
Brad.
you were there. No,
you weren't there, Brad.
I agree. Look, I think I don't have much to say about this, honestly, past the fact that Ridley Scott's a hit or miss director.
Which one do you think's going to be better, Gladiator or Freaky Friday?
Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice.
Oh, yeah. Okay, finish your thought. Sorry.
No, my thought literally is, I haven't seen the first Gladiator in a very long time. I love Pedro Pascal. Joseph Quinn from Stranger Things is one of the weird-looking emperors.
Yep.
Denzel isn't somebody that, like, scratches an itch for me. I mean, he's in the movies he's in, he's fine, but, like, he's not one that I go out of my way to see. I think that the cinematographer, by the way, is the same guy that did that Guy Ritchie King Arthur movie. Yeah. So, you know.
Yeah, that's
we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
He also did Detective Pikachu, if that helps.
Denzel Washington is dangerously towing the line of becoming another one of those actors for me that's like Tom Hanks, where I'm like, you're just Denzel as, like, it's not
Morgan Freeman.
You're not actually playing the character. Like, I don't feel like you're a different person, because I could watch The Equalizer 1, 2, and 3 and then the Gladiator movie and then you and Macbeth, and it's like the same cadence and style of speech, and you're just Denzel as. Like, so if people, I feel like when people see movies for Denzel Washington, they're Denzel Washington fans. They're not necessarily a fan of that movie, right? Like, they're like,
I agree, man.
it's fucking, you ever see him? He's so hard. Like, yeah. And I get it. Like, yeah, he's a tough. You're fucking Training Day, bro. But like, but he's one of those actors. Like, he keeps like. Even though he's very obviously playing different characters, they have different names, like they're in different universes and time periods, but like he kind of has like the same cadence all the time. And like maybe that's the job they wanted him to fulfill on this one, but Denzel Washington's not what makes me excited about this. It's definitely Pedro Pascal and not Oscar Isaac.
What worries me about Pedro Pascal in this movie though is he's phenomenal.
Yeah.
But he's been in some really bad movies.
Yeah.
And I'm worried that he's going to turn into one of those stars that doesn't end up in a lot of good movies and kind of gets
I love that he's just doing a bunch. Like, I don't care. I kind of, here's what I hope what happens to Pedro Pascal is the same thing that happened to John Hamm, or rather that John Hamm chose to do. I hope Pedro Pascal does all of this blockbuster, like crazy, insane shit that he's doing right now, right? And I hope everyone's like, they get to the point where they're like, all right, that's enough Pedro Pascal, right? And then he goes off and just does weird shit. Like, I would love to see him do more stuff of like the unbearable weight of massive talent. Like, I want to see more of that.
I want to see him in a TV show. Like
he was in TV shows a long time ago.
Funny TV show, like as the lead.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to see him. I'm not gonna say what I'd like to see him in. I'm gonna say I'm interested to see what he does once we've gotten to the point that we've had enough Pedro Pascal. Because at this point, it feels like we went to that ice cream shop, and your friend's like, "Oh, you gotta go to this ice cream shop. It's fucking great." And they give you so much ice cream, and you're like, "Okay, that's a lot. They probably give me a lot of ice cream." And then you get up, and you're like, "I'd have one small Pedro Pascal, please." And then they hand it back to you. You're like, "This is a fucking small." Like they hand you like a tub of ice cream. You're like, I can't eat all this. Like, and they're like, too bad you wanted the small. That's the small bucket of ice cream. That's what we do here. Like, and you're just like, fuck. Now I got to eat all this ice cream. All this Pedro Pascal's here. What am I going to do? Anyway, that's my analogy.
I like it.
Have you ever done that? You ever gone to like an ice cream shop and they hand you a bucket of ice cream and you're like, that's a small.
I've never had that happen. I've never ordered a small ice cream and gotten a bucket in return.
We serve ice cream in buckets here.
If you find a place that does that, let me know.
Okay.
But yeah, in terms of period pieces, though, that was my thoughts on Gladiator. Well, you saw some period pieces stuff. You saw 1917.
Okay. Yeah. So the reason this came up was because I was flying home from Idaho, and the movie 1917 was on the plane, and I finished re-listening to Gideon the Ninth, right? So now I've read and listened to Gideon the Ninth, which is amazing, and I hope that gets turned into an anime and not a live action, because that would be
live action.
Dope. No, I don't want the live action. I want an anime. It would be so much better as an animated movie, because there's so much that happens in that's like weird and cool, and I feel like the CGI budget would be insane to like make that happen. And no, I don't know that it has the following that we need yet for that, although it could. I don't know. Chapel Roan's on the rise. Chapel Roan would be a good soundtrack for that. Anyway, so I finished Gideon the Ninth, and then I was like, all right, well, I've always heard good things about 1917. Let's turn this movie on.
It's a good movie.
And no lie, I was like, oh my God, why did I not watch this movie when it came out? I'm so surprised I haven't seen this movie.
IMAX.
It's so good. It's so good. And like the way that it starts with just these two soldiers getting orders and then standing up, and then you're just following them, and how the story develops, like the screen. I'm going to read the screenplay for this thing, because I want to see how they wrote out this type of a filming process.
It feels like a giant one take.
Yeah, it feels like a giant one take. And what's really funny is I remember people being like, that whole movie was one take, and then like then they got corrected and they were like, it was 2 takes, and you're like, there's definitely more than 3 cuts in the first 5 minutes of this film. Which was funny. Well, so then I was talking to Bryce Snyder about it, because I didn't get to finish it on the plane. I only had like 40 minutes left, but I was invested, so I watched it the following night, and I was texting Bryce, and Bryce had told me that day, oh, well, there's one actual like hard cut in the middle of the film. You'll know where it is, and it's the passage of time where they have the soldiers pissing on the building. Like they walk in one side and then they walk out the other, right? But like the whole movie is playing with your eye by doing different cuts like that. Like they'll pass a piece of gravel, right? And it looks like it just continues in one solid motion because it's at the same pace, and then it picks back up on the soldiers. So the movie actually, I think I looked it up because when Bryce told me that there were like, I think Bryce said there was like only a handful of cuts, and then I was over that amount within like the first 5 to 10 minutes and was like, I'm going to look up how many cuts there are in this movie. Otherwise, it's going to bug me. I'm just going to be thinking about that the whole time. There's 34, I think, in the entire film, right, which is still a very small amount of scene cutting. Like that, like most movies have hundreds. You know?
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, most movies have hundreds of scene cuts. Now, not everybody will recognize them as scene cuts because most people think a scene cut is like cut to black, right? But it's not always cut to black. Sometimes it's a transition, and transitions require cuts. So, like, and especially when you have movies like Marvel movies, those have hundreds and hundreds of cuts because it's so much talking heads. Like it's talking head, and then it's like, you know, and they're trying to get all the right shots of all this stuff. But yeah, so 34 cuts is actually pretty
in a 2-hour
phenomenal.
Movie. It's not bad. It looks like it's an hour and 59 minutes.
It's banger, and I loved it. And then you and I were trying to figure out what we're going to talk about this week, and I was like, well, I watched that. I could talk about that. I could talk about Shogun. I watched the majority of season 1 of The Terror because after our floating adventure and like the 18-hour, let's call it a sprint trip that Adriana and I went to go see you guys. We were on the couch the next day, and she just passed out, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna edit the podcast and turn something on. And we had been looking at The Terror, and I was like, what is this? I've never seen this before, and it's fucking good. Like it's a period piece about a bunch of guys, but it's historical
Isn't it like
fiction.
Shackleton?
Kind of, but there's like a
Antarctic?
weird terror element. Like there's, it's called The Terror. The Terror is the name of one of the ships, and then it's also like part horror. So like,
watch it?
It's really good. And I was loving like the storytelling in that, the acting in that. A lot of the actors on it are banger. It's like a crazy ensemble cast, like so many people that you would recognize just right off the rip. And then like as I'm watching it, I'm like, wow, this is a really interesting period piece because you realize like how little they have at their disposal to like do things with. Like, you know, like, I think a big problem with a lot of modern movies that is like people are like, well, I would just use my cell phone to blah, 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 blah. You know, it's like, yeah, okay, we get it. We live in the modern era. A lot of things are much more easily solvable. Why doesn't everyone have a fucking Ring camera on their house? Why doesn't everyone have a cell phone? Like, okay. So
Google
like,
it.
Period pieces are actually, hold on, I'll call Adriana. The period pieces are actually... I think what's really refreshing about them is you get rid of a lot of the things that make for they make the suspension of disbelief a lot easier because you're back in a different time. It also feels a little more foreign, so it's you almost more readily immerse yourself in that type of aesthetic because you're like, oh, is this how it was? Let me pay attention, you know. So I've been enjoying those. The Terror is really good. It's in the Antarctic.
The Terror.
Yeah.
Isn't it an anthology series? So season 2 is set somewhere completely else?
Or it's not in the Antarctic. It's in I think it's an anthology series. So it's up in the Arctic Circle. Or no, not the Arctic. It's up by like northern Canada. Like where Britain was trying to found new land and stuff way back when. Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not reading the maps in the show. I'm just watching the guys experience terror. But I was watching that. I really, really, really loved Shogun. I hope Shogun gets a season 2 and 3. I think it only needs a season 2 and 3 to wrap up its story, but it's absolutely phenomenal. And they did such a good job immersing you in that period in Japan. And then 1917 was so immersive. I was like, oh, let's talk about period pieces. These are good.
Well, the movie I want to talk about later is actually, I mean, it's technically a period piece. It's set in the 70s and 90s.
Oh, hell yeah. So
close enough.
So like really like getting into it, I think what's cool about period pieces, and we go through like different, I would say like fad eras of period pieces, like Downton Abbey kind of had its own era, right? Around like 2011, 2012. Now we're back, right? We've got Bridgerton, which is kind of in the Downton Abbey area.
The Crown.
Right? You got The Crown. Outlander is kind of a period piece, right? Like it's like a weird time travel-y one, but it's a period piece.
Yeah, it counts.
Yeah, and we keep like dipping back into that, you know, and then you and I have already talked about it. Kingdom of Heaven, Gladiator, like there's a lot of stuff that hits that realm, you know, of period piece. And then even Game of Thrones or some other fantasy shows, a lot of times what they're doing is they're drawing from elements of medieval times or like just post-medieval times, maybe even Renaissance times, right?
There's inspiration there for sure.
Yeah, around the same time that Game of Thrones was coming out, the show The Tudors was wrapping up with Henry Cavill.
With Henry Cavill.
Well, yeah, it's funny that we say with Henry Cavill. He did not play like a huge character in the show. No. it was definitely more of Jonathan Rhys Meyers, right? Yeah. He was the main character on the show, and he actually did a really great job. And then he was in a bunch of bad movies. But but yeah, so The Tudors was out. I mean, even the show that kind of marked the beginning of what was like primetime television was Rome on HBO. And a lot of people would say it was The Sopranos, and I would say The Sopranos helped. Rome came out first.
I remember Rome.
Rome was like such a good period. Actually, I might be wrong that it came out first, but like, so The Sopranos and Rome, I'll just put them in the same category. Like, neither one is better than the other. Like, they're just, you might like one or the other depending on what you like more. But like, Rome was like, it was an immersive experience. It really felt like you were in Rome. Everything
Sopranos
was
came out
shitty, huh?
Sopranos came out first.
Oh yeah, okay,
by
there
6
we go.
years.
Fuck.
We were way off.
Wow. Whatever. So Oscar Isaac's in Rome, and no, I'm just kidding.
It's Ray Stevenson.
I fucking know.
Okay.
I'm just gonna throw out when I don't know an actor. I'm just gonna say it's Oscar Isaac.
I love that. Put that on a shirt.
That's just so Oscar Isaac. He's got a crazy He's got a crazy filmography. He's in everything. No, so Ray Stevenson's phenomenal in that show. Everybody in that show is really good, but like I think what was really good about it was they were committing to that period, and it really felt like you were in Rome. Like there was, you know, like everything happened a little bit slower. All of the costumes are different. Now these are fucking expensive to make. Like
that's why Rome didn't get another season.
Notably, well, Rome had 2, and the second
but it got canceled.
It did. But it actually finished wrapping up its story in the second season pretty well, despite being canceled. Yeah. And Rome is what was credited as being the real thing that opened the door for Game of Thrones, because the people, you know, like the executives at HBO saw like, oh, there's actually a want for this. Like people want to see stuff that's got this kind of dingy, like older vibe to it. Let's give it a try with this fantasy series. And then Game of Thrones became one of like the biggest fantasy series of all time. And now we have House of the Dragon, and it's still doing the same thing. Like they're in these beat up dingy castles. There's no crazy technology, you know, like there's in Game of Thrones and House of Dragons. Yeah, there's dragons. There's a little bit of magic, but for the most part, like it's kind of like sword clashing and political intrigue.
I don't get a big magic vibe from House of the Dragon so far.
Well, when you have two dragons breathing fire at each other and fighting in the air, yeah, it's there. But it's low magic, right?
That's what I'm saying. But like dragons are,
they're magic.
Like they're a must in these kinds of shows, so they don't feel like a magical element.
Well, it's called House of the Dragon.
Well, I know what you're saying. I'm saying that I feel like without. Like when you have a period piece, or not period piece, but like when you have a show or something set like Game of Thrones, and there's not mythical creatures, I feel like it doesn't fit as well. At that point, you might as well just make it a show about Rome. You know what I mean? Like if you don't have dragons, you don't have flying eagles, if you don't have walking trees, like yes, those are magic elements, but without them, it just feels like a period piece.
Well, and George R. R. Martin famously draws a lot of the influence for his characters and some of the bigger events in Game of Thrones from actual history, right? Like like the Red Wedding was the Black Wedding, which happened in Scotland, and like in House of the Dragon, you can actually see some of the Spanish emperors. Like you can see some of their lineage like being bled through some of the characters. But yeah, so like with those, despite dragons, which are magical, like, and although necessary to the plot, despite that, it feels very much like political intrigue, dingy castles, and people like just kind of sloughing it in the medieval times. And all of this comes with, you know, higher budget, some crazy obstacles. A lot of these things are being shot in like Ireland, Morocco, New Zealand, you know, like They're shooting in these places of the world that are relatively isolated, right? That are, or at least like they're trying to shoot as much as they can in these places that are isolated, so that they're getting better shots. Now, obviously, Gladiator is going to be a little bit different because you want to shoot a lot of that around the area where Rome was.
Shot on
But
green screen.
yeah, but and you can't because that's been modernized, so you have to shoot it on a green screen
Or the void.
Yeah, you have to shoot it in the void. But a lot of these shows, especially these period pieces, they're finding these these places that are slightly removed from modern society, and they appear different. Like Downton Abbey wasn't shot on a green screen, so like it's kind of cool to see how all those things come together and how people weave those things together. Now, the big thing that I really wanted to bring up, I think the Terror is phenomenal. I think it's gonna end up I'm glad it got a second season. I don't even know if it'll get a third because
It's got a third.
Okay.
Second's done, third's
great.
on the way.
Well, great, because it's actually phenomenal. It's really good, and kind of like the way that they lean into horror is it's like maybe it's kind of spiritual, maybe it's not, it's really cool. I highly recommend that series. But I really wanted to touch on Shogun because Shogun's the first time I watched a series where they really immersed you as the viewer in one character's experience in the show, because they have one guy who speaks, there's multiple characters who speak English, but the main character is this guy. I think his name's Samuel Blackthorne. Yeah, I know his last name's Blackthorne, but he's a pilot on a Navy ship, and this is where it's based on history. They've gone over to plunder Portuguese places like in the Pacific, and they're going not long after Magellan has kind of like found a way over there, right? So they're over there, and they're supposed to be like plundering the Portuguese because Spain and Portugal are at war. Britain has sided with Spain, and so this guy Blackthorne, he's on the ship. It crashes immediately, and then you're just like, he's met with people who don't speak English and speak Japanese, and he has no idea what they're saying. They have no idea what he's saying, and over the course of the first season, he learns some Japanese, but not a ton, and he's been there for a long time, so it's kind of cool to see the broken Japanese coming in, over the course of the series. But also the rest of the series, like none of the other, like he gets a translator, but nobody else is speaking English to him. They don't care. Like they're like, no, you speak Japanese, you're here. And what's cool about that is the show's mostly shot with people speaking Japanese, and it's interesting to see them in this period where they're like, they just came out of a period that had a shogunate, which is a form of rule that has a shogun. He's like the main ruler. Right now they kind of have like this council of rulers that agree upon different things for the areas of Japan. But there's a ton of political tension there, and then you're watching the political tension develop, and this guy Blackthorne, like he doesn't have all the tools to just figure it out and make the right decisions. He's kind of like having to pay close attention to these people and what they're saying and how their body language is and try to learn the words. The entire time, it's kind of a love letter to this period in Japan, because you just see all of the different culture that like existed then. And I'm sure it's not 100% accurate, but even just seeing a lot of like Japanese culture acted out in live action in this very interesting and, I would say, as far as I know, respectful way, like has been amazing, because I'm just sitting there and I'm watching these different rituals that they have, and like watching the Western and Eastern philosophies clash, because the main character is from the West, and so he's got this very like gung-ho, I'm gonna like, no, death is gonna have to come for me, whereas a lot of the people that he meets are these people in Japan who are like, we have earthquakes here and people fall into the ocean and just die, and we accept that. Like when death comes for us, it's actually a very honorable thing to just accept it. So like you have these people who sometimes like they know that like they're going to be murdered the next day, and they're like, yes, I accept this is my fate, I can't outrun it. And he's like, no, fuck that, I'm gonna outrun fate. Like no, I'm not giving up on this. And it's interesting to see like how that affects them, because then they're like, wait, this guy thinks he can do it, like maybe, or would that be betraying my own culture to also think the same thing? So like there's a lot going into that period piece that just makes it, in my opinion, one of the more rich and rewarding experiences of watching a period piece that I've ever been through.
It looks good. It's definitely on my list.
It's phenomenal.
It's
also shot with a weird like back in the day filter kind of, but this one's like it's kind of like a light. It's you'll have to tell me that you agree, but like it's like a light blue gray. You know, it's different from it's funny like when things are like Mediterranean or biblical history, we put like the pseudo sepia, like the weird yellow tint on it, right? This is in Japan, and a lot of it's like oceanside, and there's a lot of vibrant green in the forest. So there's almost like this weird like it's like almost like a mist, like a light blue gray.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. We use the same one for Eastern European like countries sometimes.
Yes.
And we also use the same sepia tone for Miami.
Yeah, we make them like more blue gray than what they need to be.
Why?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, it does work. Like
it does.
Yeah, it does feel different. But
I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be.
All right.
Shogun looks fantastic.
It is. I can't recommend it enough.
I will say that unfortunately, because of our technical issues, my battery power in my recording studio is running low.
Oh no.
I probably have like another 20-25 minutes.
Okay, cool. All right, well, hit me with a little period piece love that you got. We don't have to get into the nitty gritty of it. We can come back later when another period piece comes out. Okay, cool.
So here's my plan.
Hit me.
So total side note.
Yeah.
We talked that I wanted to watch The Acolyte when all the episodes drop. I'm gonna binge the fuck out of it.
Okay.
I want to do the same with The Boys.
The Acolyte, famously a Star Wars period piece.
Yes, it is. It's a period piece within Star Wars.
It really is. It really is.
It's fantastic. Here I go. I want to do like a massive TV show recap episode at some point.
Oh yeah, from the summer. Summer TV recap.
It might even end up being like a 2-part because I need to finish House of Dragon. I need to watch Shogun. I need to watch Acolyte. I need to watch
House of
The
Dragon
Boys.
Got 3 more episodes, I think.
I'm still on episode 7 of season 1.
Oh shit! Oh, sorry.
I have a lot of catching up to.
Wow!
I haven't been watching. Have not been watching anything.
Oh, so you?
I'm behind.
You haven't even seen Dragons fight yet.
No.
Oh wow. Okay. And here I am talking about dragons. I'm spoiling.
I figured dragons fight, but you're not really spoiling anything. I mean, if they didn't fight, I'd be disappointed.
Yeah. It's called House of the Dragons. It's in the name, baby.
House of Where Are the Dragons if they weren't fighting.
Yeah.
So, with all of that, I do want to watch Shogun.
Yeah.
I want to talk about all of these shows at some point, but Longlegs.
Oh yeah. So you watched Longlegs recently?
Yeah.
Which is a movie about spiders.
No.
Oh, okay.
So, funny enough, I thought the same thing. So
you would think, because that's what we think of when we say Longlegs.
You know, funny enough, I was reading last night after the movie because I did a deep dive on like people involved. The reason that and I just had it up. What is his name? His name is Oz Perkins.
Okay.
I do not know him from anything else. I've never seen him direct anything. I've never seen anything he's written.
Okay.
None of it. The movie has Nicolas Cage, Blair Underwood, and then the main lead, Micah Monroe. You would know from one of your favorite movies, Independence Day Resurgence. She plays the love interest.
I have not seen that movie.
You love that movie. I know you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, you're right. I love that movie with Oscar Isaac.
Yeah. He plays the alien.
He's in it.
This movie is True Detective meets The Exorcism.
Okay.
And that's probably not doing it a good enough justice, but what this movie is about is in the 90s. And speaking of period pieces, I just want to say this because this is what Goose and I were talking about.
I think True Detective had an exorcism in it. Keep going.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. This movie feels so. It's set in the 90s. It's never said that, but the FBI's in it, and in the FBI office, you see a picture of Bill Clinton. So obviously, he's the current president. So it's set in the 90s.
So they show us, don't tell us. Thank you.
Yes,
we like
I love that. There is a couple dates that they drop because they're like, in 1975, which is so you get like 2 time periods that like this mystery is involved in. You have the 90s where they're currently investigating it, and then you find out that it all started in the 70s.
Oh, so it is kind of. Do they flash back to the 70s a lot?
A little bit, yeah.
So it is kind of True Detective. Okay.
It's pretty cool how they do the narrative side of it, but it's about this. There's a serial killer. He goes by Longlegs, and I was reading this
He goes by Longlegs.
That's his name, like
Keep
but
going.
when the director was asked, like, "Oh, how did you come up with Longlegs?" Like, and he was like, as a writer, you know, it's our job to come up with words that make people go, ooh, or and long legs just is one of those words that has, like, you know, daddy long legs, so people associate it already with something that's considered a fear. So to have this guy be named long legs, I was like, that's a great idea.
Cool.
Just wordplay. You know, I love when a director's just like, yeah, I thought this word sounded like kind of spooky, and so I used it. Like,
Yep.
good. But Nicolas Cage, who is very hit or miss for me personally, is playing the serial killer, and you're following this FBI agent and her boss, who's played by Blair Underwood, as they're investigating this, and this guy leaves cryptic messages with a cipher, so it's got some Zodiac inspiration there. You find out that he's never in the house when the murders take place. Like, it's like he was never there, but he's leaving these letters. Whoa. And there is this supernatural element to it, but it's so sprinkled in throughout that if you're paying enough attention, you could probably kind of figure out what's going on. Okay. But if you allow yourself to just be immersed in the ride, when you get to the reveal at the end, it's one of those that you go, oh, yes, okay, cool. It's not one of those, like, The Happening, where it's like all of a sudden, oh yeah, well, the bees were killing us. You know, like, it's not.
Oh yeah.
You don't go through this ride for like a really stupid payoff. Like, you're like, oh shit, like that tracks, that makes sense. I'm okay with that kind of thing. You know.
Yeah.
I like the fact that it, small spoiler, kind of, I guess, has a dark ending, which I love. I love when these kinds of movies don't end on a happy note. Oh, I love that. Acting is phenomenal. The cinematography, what I loved about this movie, and I literally was telling Goose about it, and then after the movie, we went out with I told you about him, my bud tender, Will.
Yeah.
We went out to Chili's after the movie to meet up with them, and I was telling him about it, and I love horror movies. I love when movies, especially horror, add an element of claustrophobia without having to make it look claustrophobic. This movie, I counted, and I want to watch it again. I think it had 3 wide-angle shots.
Whoa.
Everything else was tight and center of the frame.
Wow.
So everything was like super close up. So when stuff happens, like when you see stuff in the background or somebody gets attacked or whatever, it's so tight that like you can't miss it.
Oh, damn.
And I love the claustrophobia. Also, there's a lot of really good symbolism. I'm going to throw this out there. Look at the clocks. If you watch this movie, look at all the clocks.
Okay.
And tell me if you notice what time they're on. Like, little things for us as the audience that really made this movie, like, enjoyable. It was
Are all the clocks on 420?
666.
Oh, okay.
It's not, like, scary in the sense of, like...
Wait, how could they be on 666? With the second hand?
Second hand, hour hand, minute hand.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I liked that it wasn't, like, full of jump scares. There is some, like, music cues that go... And, like, they kind of make you go... But it's just... It's so good, man. Like, the more I think about this movie, the more I'm like... This is the kind of movie I want to see more movies like this. A small budget, small cast, like small. Can I do like one really, really tiny spoiler?
Yeah.
And it's pretty obvious in this movie from the beginning, and they mention it. There's some satanic elements in it. That's all I'm going to say.
You just said 666 on the clock.
Yeah. So that's why I'm like, I might as well go ahead and go. So what I love about stories with the devil, right, is you don't really get stories of the devil being like, I'm taking over the fucking world, right? Yeah. It's usually like, here's a town in Wisconsin that's got 100 people, and I'm going to fuck their world up by possessing one person. You know, like, they're very small, like, they're very small story. Yeah, contained stories. That's the word I was looking for.
I got you.
And I love that. This takes place in Oregon. It's very small. Like, you barely see any, like, there's not a very big cast. Like, you follow the same, like, 2 people for most of the movie. Yep. It's just, I don't know, like, as far as movies this year, one of the best I've seen. Top 3, hands down. Like, better than The Beekeeper, if you can believe it. Like,
hell yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those, I think it's a limited release in theaters. It's from a smaller production company called Neon that did that Sydney Sweeney Immaculate movie.
Well,
that I wasn't a fan of personally. I just, again, I feel like, and I want to say this real quick, and this is a hot take. You ready for my hot take? Hot take. Horror movies have the most potential when it comes to unique stories. You could talk about anything in horror. Anything. You can set it at any time period. You can set it on any planet. You can do whatever the fuck you want with horror. I feel like horror is the one genre that is unlimited on what you can do. You know what I mean? Like, there's a horror movie about space rocks that are actually spiders that attack astronauts. Like, you can do whatever you want. Not saying it's all going to be good, but you can do whatever you want. But for some reason, last year with Gerard Butler, or no, it was Russell Crowe. He was the Pope's exorcist. Now now this year, he's coming out with another exorcist movie where he's the Pope. We have so many movies about nuns and possession, which is the Sydney Sweeney Immaculate movie, the Nun movies, the Exorcism, the Exorcism Believer. Like, I feel like horror gets caught in this, here's a slasher in a mask, or here's a possession in the church. But, like, there's so much more we can do with it. And to see a story, like, kind of follow that, but then add these new elements that I've never seen in a horror movie and make them work in a way that, like, tells this story that is really easy to follow but keeps you entertained and intrigued is just... That's why I fucking love horror, and I want to see more than just, here's a nun, and here's a satanic cult, and they're going to do some shit, and at the end of it, who knows? Like, I just, sick of it. I'm sick of Omen movies. I'm sick of exorcism movies. I'm sick of it, Kevin. I'm sick of it.
On a scale from 1 to 10 feet, how long are the legs of this movie?
10.
Oh, wow.
It's so fucking good.
Good.
It's so good. I'm obsessed with it. I cannot wait to watch it again.
Cool. I'll have to watch it.
I definitely recommend it
Is it
in
on
theaters.
demand already, or is it
theaters.
Is it in theaters?
It's a limited release in theaters. And look, I don't usually say this about movies like this.
Go see it in the
I
movies?
think this is one that you should see in theaters.
Okay.
It has some really cool aspect ratio changes that are intentional, that work. And I think it's just better on a big screen.
Okay. I'll have to
good.
check it out.
I could talk about this movie nonstop. Like, it's so good. Nicolas Cage's performance, he's fucking crazy, dude. But like, it's a Nicolas Cage performance where you're like, oh, this is the Nicolas Cage I like, dude. This is the Nicolas Cage I want to see. His makeup is fucking weird as shit,
too. Yeah, it's just like wacky and off the walls.
Oh, it's so good, dude.
We love that.
So good.
We love like Raising Arizona, Moonstruck, like
Moonstruck. I was just pulling clips from Moonstruck for my Geostorm video.
Oh hell yeah, Moonstruck's great. He's phenomenal in that
Moonstruck.
movie. I mean, even Con Air Nicolas Cage was pretty cool.
Yes,
you know,
Face
Off, yeah. We like
First
funky
Kick-Ass.
Nicolas Cage. We like weird Nicolas Cage. Yeah,
I love okay, speaking of Nicolas Cage, real quick. You know he's got like one of the largest filmographies because he just does whatever the fuck he wants.
Yeah, he just says yes to everything.
Yeah,
He's like, I'll do it.
There's one movie of his that he says he wants people to watch more than any of the others.
What is it?
I've never seen it. Have you seen the movie Pig?
No.
Me either. I'm gonna watch it. It's the one that Nicolas Cage is the most proud of, apparently.
Okay, cool.
And it's a revenge mission of him going after somebody who stole his pig.
I love it.
I love it.
That sounds
That's
great.
my jam. That's a long-winded jam, but
That's a good jam.
It's a really good. And if you're not going to see it in theaters, that's totally fine. It'll probably be on streaming in like an hour. No,
Okay.
How theaters work, but it's good.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
It's on streaming now.
It came out yesterday and it's on streaming right now. It's actually, you're watching. You don't even realize it's on your TV playing.
I don't know. I don't know why things have to come out that fast. Like,
I hate it.
Give me a week to see it. Like, because if you give me the option, it ends up being cheaper in the long run, right? Because I don't have to buy concessions or anything like that, right? Even if you're sneaking concessions in, like movie theater trips can sometimes be expensive. Don't give me the option. Give me some time. Leave it in theaters for a while. Then have a break. Then bring it out. That way I'll at least be like, oh well, I won't be able to see this movie for a while if I don't go see it now. You know,
exactly. I don't feel like I have to rush out. Like
time.
the movie If, that Imaginary Friends movie with Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
It's already on streaming. It
What
came
the
out
fuck?
less than a month ago.
Well, that movie probably also bombed.
But like, movies are not doing well over time because I think people know. I know other people have talked about this, but people know. Oh, I want to like The Fall Guy. I wanted to see that in theaters. It was out on streaming to rent 3 weeks after it came out in theaters. I'm like, well,
yeah, that's too fast.
Okay, I mean, there are movies I believe in seeing on the big screen, like Twisters and Deadpool. But like some of these smaller movies that I want to see. Do I want to take 3 hours out of my day to go sit through previews and wait for the movie to start and then drive there? Like, no, not when I can literally sit my naked ass in my bed with a Big Mac dripping all over me and put it on the TV.
That was a very vivid image of you.
Yeah, I don't know why I went that way. That was
weird. Why are you doing that while watching Nicolas Cage films? This is a weird arc for you,
I got
Odie.
lost. What's your jam?
Odie's in a weird place.
No, let's ignore that.
I got a couple jams this week.
Hit me.
So my first jam, a couple music jams actually. This is kind of a weird one. Natalie Carr's got a new song out. Crying When I'm
Natalie
Sober.
Carr's music.
Yep, we love Natalie
so
Carr.
good.
She's phenomenal. She's super talented.
Cowboy.
But yeah, No, yeah, Cowboy was great. Crying When I'm Sober just came out. It's real good.
That's a good one.
It's real good. I also like. I'm like, girl, why are you crying when you're sober? I can't wait for Natalie Carr. I'm waiting for like her story arc where she hits the point where she starts writing like real interesting like self-love bangers that don't even involve another person. I'm really excited for it. I honestly I feel like she probably already has a couple on this album that's coming out soon, but yeah, no, she's great. Super grateful for her new music. And then I've got like a weird music jam. I kind of like. You ever get like a hankering for an old band you used to listen to?
Yes, all the time.
Yeah,
all
okay.
the time.
But then you go back into them and you're like, oh, this was actually a formative band for me. This is like so I went back. And my real jam this week is and by real jam, Natalie Carr's a real jam. But my real jam. So I drove up to a bachelor party in Lake Placid.
Friday.
Oh God, Friday night. Yeah, 2 nights.
Yeah.
My brain is fried this week. So I go up to this bachelor party, and on the way up, like as I'm leaving, my brain just goes, "You should download because it's a drive up to Lake Placid." My brain's like, "You should download." A few Incubus albums and just jam those on the way up. And the thing is like I've come so far with how much I love and listen to music, and I have so much variation and appreciation for so many different things in my musical repertoire and like in my even weekly rotation that like Incubus kind of fell by the wayside because they're a band that I'm either listening to almost exclusively or not listening to, right? And that's how it's kind of always been. Like, did you have a disc changer when you were younger? Did you have like a 5-disc CD player or anything like that? Did you ever have one of those, or were you strictly MP3s?
No, my family is ancient, so we had record players, disc players, Walkmans, cassettes. We had a little bit of every fucking thing.
Okay, so my prized possession in my room when I was like a teenager, and this is totally showing you how old I am, was a 5-disc CD. No, it was 3. It was a 3-disc CD changer, but it had really good speakers. And there were 3 CDs in there, and they were Incubus, Morning View, Deftones, White Pony, and Glassjaw,
Titanic.
Worship and Tribute. And that pretty much like was my entire music taste for like 2 to 3 years. Well, probably 2 years of my life was like those 3 bands, and then stuff that kind of branched out from them. Like they were the center, and then everything else like branched out. But Incubus was probably the band that made me not only want to play, but realize that I could play music. Like I loved listening to Brandon Boyd. I love his lyrical content. I love everything that he's done. I mean, like he was the first like person I even knew about like that was relatively famous who was openly bisexual. Like just a cool dude. And like then you would see some of the art on Incubus albums and be like, well, Brandon Boyd drew that. And you're like, what? He's the singer. And they're like, but like just so cool. And he was such a like an inspiration of mine. Like, you know, like that's what when I found out he was openly bisexual, that was the first thing that as like a cis heterosexual dude, I was like, oh, well, I still really love this guy. Actually, like, you know, like that didn't affect my opinion at all. It probably never should, right? You know, like that. But like because Brandon Boyd was that for me, it was that much easier as things continued on. So like there's a lot of key components of who I am that kind of come back to Incubus. And like oh, dude, my fucking, you know how you could do like quotes in your high school yearbook?
Oh God.
Mine was an Incubus quote. Like,
of course.
But it was from Make Yourself. It wasn't from like a stereotypical song. Which is actually, I mean, Make Yourself is really good like self-love life philosophy. They have a lot of really cool stuff to offer.
I like Incubus.
But then specifically this morning I woke up and as I was getting ready to do this podcast, I was listening to I think it's either Enjoy Incubus or When Incubus Attacks, but it's got like their old stuff on it when they wanted to be kind of like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and like that was their big influence. So they have like these songs, You Will Be a Hot Dancer and Shaft and like Version and As We Think We Is, like just really fucking funky weird songs. And I'm going back through it and it's bringing so much joy to me. So Incubus, like huge jam. Like they're like a jam that even if I don't mention them, like they're always a jam, you know, always have been. Probably one of my favorite concerts I've ever seen. Just love the band to death. Yeah. Phenomenal.
Love that.
Yeah. Thanks. That was just me fawning over Incubus for a little while.
No, dude, I'm here for it. You reminded me, though. Don't forget to change out the battery in that AirTag for me so I can keep track of where you are.
Oh, my God. We didn't even talk about how you're tracking me now.
I am.
This is amazing. I can't wait. I'm going to put that AirTag in the weirdest places in the world and just have you be like, what the fuck is Kevin doing?
You're going to have to change the battery because it literally does. It shows me that it was at my house 3 months ago.
That's
and
fine.
That's the last time it activated.
What a funny moment when I opened it up and I like just sent you that picture. I'm like, Odie, what is this? Because you gave me a bag. You were like, first off, thank you for the bag. It's an amazing bag. I've been using it. But secondly, why did you track me?
I wanted to know you were safe.
I guess so. Well, thanks, Odie. I appreciate it. What a wholesome, heartwarming way to end the podcast is you knowing that I'm safe.
Yeah.
Now, go get a pool floaty and go hop in a Colorado River, please.
I'm going to.
I can't be the only one in our friend group who's done this.
You will not be, trust me.
All right. fuck. Hold on.